Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. Before we get started, I do ask that you all please be mindful and respectful of each other's time, just because we do only have 30 to 40 minutes and we want to get through as many questions as possible. So yeah, make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak. I'm going to go around and choose you to speak. So when you do answer the first question, please just say your first and last name and then go ahead and give your answer. So my first question is, how does your current platform accommodate for what is, in your opinion, the most pressing issue students from your college face?
Do we just speak or?
I'll go around. So Dominique, you can go first.
Okay. Can you repeat the question?
It is, how does your current platform accommodate for what is, in your opinion, the most pressing issue that students from your college face?
Oh, okay, you posted. Okay, on the chat. Sorry, it's just my internet connection. So for my current platform, I'm a delegate for the Student Voice Committee. And so what we do a lot of surveys. And from what I found out from my own issues and being a CNAS major is that I found out that there's a lot of students in the transfers who are CNAS majors who have a lot of difficulty trying to apply for classes because since we transferred in some of our breath requirements, it's really difficult for us to go to basically our the next higher level class when the system doesn't accept our breath requirements.
Okay, thank you. Aya, you can go next.
So hi, my name is Anaya-Morga. So I would say that being in CNAS, I think there's kind of a disconnect between student government and CNAS students. At least I felt that way. I think it's really important that CNAS students feel a connection and feel that their voices can be heard and that their voices are important. I think that a lot of students don't feel that the student government is representative of them and that they don't really feel that it applies to them necessarily or that it can affect them. And so I personally, from my peers, I've heard a lot of opinions and concerns that they have. And I think that they don't really know where to go to discuss those things. So I would say that's a pressing issue. And then in particular, I won't go in details right now, but there are particular issues that I've heard myself that I would love to address.
Okay, Ridwan, you can go next.
Can you please repeat the question?
Yes, so it's, how does your current platform accommodate for what is, in your opinion, the most pressing issue that students from your college face? And I will be posting the questions in the chat just so you all can go back to them.
Okay. So I believe that the students in CNAS I believe that us as students need to have more of a voice in where our money specifically goes. I know that tuition is pretty high in general, and I know that specific resources that we have the money can be used in different places. For example, recently there was this new art project, Things Change Things, and that caused a big uproar. And I believe that as CNAS students, we should have a voice in kind of manipulating where money goes and how that should be more effective for us in the long run.
Thank you. Yeah. Lama?
Hi, I'm Lama Yassine, and I have been talking mostly about one really big problem that me and a lot of my peers face as being CNAS majors is that our majors are more impacted than the school accommodates for. So what happens a lot is waitlists are full, class seats are taken most of the time, and it's really hard to get classes, especially upper division classes, because everyone's fighting for them. And sometimes there's classes that only have maybe 10 or 20 seats when they could easily add a couple more. And the process is basically in order to add more seats, like professors have to fight like with the like to the deans of those departments. It's very complicated right now just to add like 2 or 3 more seats. And there are a lot of professors who are willing to actually do that. So I think that if we just stress the importance and like work with the deans and try our best to that they are more accommodating in terms of seats and classes for students, I think that that would make it a lot easier for people to not be stressed about classes. And I know some people take a couple extra quarters because they get pushed back by pre-requirements and things like that. So I've definitely been addressing the issue of not having enough seats in our classes as much as I can.
Sorry. The second question is, ASUCR's reputation has not been the best over the years. How do you individually plan on fixing this image problem? Is this something that can be fixed in only a year? So we'll go back to the beginning to Dominique.
I do believe we can fix this in a year. It definitely has to be with more interactions with the students. I mean, right now, what you're hearing a lot, especially a few months ago, when someone on in ASUCR wanted to increase their stipend, a lot of people were upset with that issue. And so for us, like what I was, have been talking to other people, what happened if we could decrease the amount of the stipend and put it back into ASUCR's budget funding for the students? Because Student Voice Committee, we actually did a survey asking the student body what they would like ASUCR's $35,000 budget to be spent on. A lot of people really liked art gear, and so like I believe half of like the surveys, which I can send that to you if you like, mentioned that like 51% mentioned that they liked the art gear. The other half of the people we surveyed were saying that they wanted to spend more of the $35,000 limit budget to decrease the amount of the textbooks and to provide more school supplies. Like, for instance, for CNAS majors, they do want more lab coats and they want more school supplies, such as notebooks, pencils, and everything else. And that was a survey that we conducted.
Thank you. Aya?
So I would say that it can be fixed, of course, and I think a lot of it has to do with student engagement. A lot of students just feel a disconnect, like I mentioned before. I personally, for example, I don't know any of the CNAS senators. I haven't really heard of them. And so I think that it's important to keep them in kind of the flow of things and knowing of what's happening. I also believe that it's important. What I would like to do is to implement some sort of way to consistently communicate with students on a broad range and in a way that's very accessible. So for example, I could use like Google Forms or some way where students feel that their concerns are constantly being addressed and that I'm there to listen to that. So I think it's really important that they understand that I'm there for them and I genuinely want to hear what their concerns are. And I really want it to be a regular thing. So.
Thank you. Ridwan?
So yeah, I definitely agree that ASUCR has been in a negative spotlight a lot of the time. And during the past 2 years of my undergrad career here at UCR, I haven't really been involved in ASUCR. I feel that most of the students don't really care too much about the things that are happening outside in the broader perspective. A lot of us are in our own bubble, and I feel that to take people out of that bubble, we need to have more interaction with more students and to basically give them an opportunity to view their concerns and comments and actually bridge the connection between ASUCR as a student government and the student body, because the government should be there to serve the students, not just for themselves. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you so much. Sandra, thank you for joining us. So we're going around and I'm asking one question and choosing people to answer. So when we get to you, I'll go ahead and ask you both questions.
Thank you. I just want to apologize because I was attending another lecture and it's kind of, yeah. All right, thank you.
Don't worry about it. I'll give you time to answer both questions. For the second question, let's go to Lama.
So I definitely think that students' opinions can be changed like within minutes or days because of how fast it is to communicate things over social media. Like, and I definitely think that the reputation can be switched up, and I think that the reason why it is the way that it is because people just don't know what ASUCR is actually doing. Like, I don't think that people are aware that our gear is a part of ASUCR, and I don't think like people know that ASUCR gives out like free Scantrons, school supplies, parking passes, all kinds of things during finals week. I also I think if people knew that when they were going to move commencement to off campus, if people knew that the president of ASUCR was the person who fought really, really hard for us to keep that on campus and have the names read and everything, I think people would be a lot more appreciative of what ASUCR has to offer. And I don't think that people would be thinking the way that they are. I think they just don't. I think they're just getting misinformation as it is. So I think that by recognizing the things that representatives of ASUCR have done is a really great way to get better exposure.
Thank you. So Sandra, the first question was, how does your current platform accommodate for what is, in your opinion, the most pressing issues students of your college face?
I think the most important questions that we should address right now is that most of CNAS students or BCOE students, they're very busy. So most of them don't really have time or have the attentions on ASUCR. And as we know, our advertising program is not the best, and not so many people understand that what ASUCR is about. So what I believe is that we need more clarification. We need more kind of clear directions in decision making. And what I think that I would have like an input box in ASUCR, and that every students that would like to have like their opinion voice, so that if they want to tell me something about what's going on and what they would want to be fixed, then they will like write me a letter, and at the end of the week I would write a letter answering their questions, or kind of like thinking and using that as a guideline for what I would do during my term.
Thank you. And the second question is, ASUCR's reputation has not been the best over the years. How do you individually plan on fixing this image problem? And is this something that can be fixed in only a year?
That is actually not a very easy question, actually, because in order to fix the whole system, we actually need a lot of people working in the same thing. And if I say that I'll be able to fix everything, and definitely that's a lie, but if we make like small steps at a time, then I think that people will see how we change. Let's say if we keep our words, like if all the CNAS senators elected this year keep their words and actually work for the students. Of course, most of the senators work for the students, but they also, they have their own interests too. So it would be better if we have more events that having students interacting with the senators and know what kind of person they are in real life, then that would be a lot better in terms of transparency. And like I said, I think the inbox idea that I have is a pretty good one, because people would actually talk to like a real person and not just like, just during a debate and you talk and people hear you, they don't really know what you're in person, or you don't know if they would, care about you. I think like a real like handwritten letter or something, talking face one-to-one would be a good solution.
Okay, thank you so much. My third question is specific for CNAS majors, and it says, many natural science courses such as the Chem and Bio series are required for CNAS majors, but are reserved for learning communities or for Chem and Bio majors. What ideas do you and your party have for making them more accessible to students? And we'll go to Dominique again.
Right. To make it more accessible to students, I believe we would have to pass a bill and have it sent to, have all the senators agree, and then have it sent to the academic senate. So, because yeah, the chemistries and the bio series are required for many of the CNAS majors or breadth requirements, but it is reserved for the learning communities for only chemistry and bios. So I think in order to expand it, we can just we can definitely survey more students to see their idea, their point of views, and then present it to a Senate meeting and have it pass through the academic Senate.
Thank you. Aya?
So that's a good question. I honestly am not sure how to approach that at the moment. I think what I would do is just cooperate with as many people as I can and try to get more students' opinions on that, and then work with other people and other groups of people to discover ways that we can approach that, because I think that is a big issue that I have heard from a lot of students, but it is something that's kind of on a larger scale, and I think we would have to cooperate with a lot of people and communicate and have open conversations in order to tackle it.
Thank you. Ridwan?
Okay, so this is a question that relates to me personally. Last year, which was my first year here at UCR, I was not a part of a learning community, and that was a really big bummer for me because I knew that learning communities basically provided a lot of benefits because you could basically get classes early and basically be with people throughout the course of a year and make friends and so on. So to approach this problem, in my situation, I wasn't exactly in a learning community, but I was able to get the bio series and chem series without a problem. But I know that the seating is very limited, and one way I could fix that would be through looking for ways to maybe increase class sizes. I know that's not something that specifically ASUCR can do. Like that's something that ASUCR and the dean and the people in higher places can do as well. So that's one way to increase class size. Another way would be to basically make learning communities more open for other students as well. For students like me who weren't able to get in because I came to the college late and I wasn't able to take my math placement test. So that's why I was removed from the learning community. Like I wasn't part of one at all. So basically maybe reaching out to students who are in CNAS and giving them the option to be in learning communities would be a good idea.
Thank you. Alama?
Like I mentioned earlier, I think that the first thing that we could try to do is to try to open up more seats in classes, which I think is a solution that kind of hits a couple of bases. So that's always a good one. But that does reach a certain extent. So I think after we've added as many seats as we possibly can, we could advertise the learning communities a lot better in the beginning, because I think that the primary benefit of learning communities is actually to help students reserve their spot in a class so that they can avoid being one of those people who's worrying about getting a class. So I think if we better advertise that in the beginning, because I was part of a learning community and I wasn't really aware of the benefits. I just thought, oh, sure, these are, they tell you, hey, these are the people you're going to study with, which doesn't really mean anything, especially if you're the type of person that studies better by yourself. So I think that better advertising what a learning community is, how it works, and that you get all of your seats reserved is super important, because anyone is allowed to join. They make learning communities for all kinds of math placements, all kinds of English placements, whatever the case may be, in CNAS especially. So they make all kinds of learning communities. So I think that if people know better, are more informed in the beginning, that they can join one and just avoid the problems altogether, I think that would be really good. I also think one more thing we could do is the series tend to be offered really oddly throughout the quarters. So I know Chem 1A and Chem 1C are offered fall, and then Chem 1A and Chem 1B are offered winter. Things like that can really screw up somebody's 4-year plan. So I think if we did our best to maybe offer Chem 1 ABC in fall, Chem 1 ABC in winter, things like that, that wouldn't really push people back. I think that would be really beneficial to a lot of people. And I also think really quickly that to address what Ridwan said, I think that we need to make more kinds of learning communities, like to accommodate for the different math placements and things like that, because I know that they have very strict like requirements to get into certain learning communities. So I think that would also be really beneficial.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to Sandra.
I think everyone's idea of learning community is actually like the best one that I can think of. I wasn't aware of that actually. Like Lama said, I didn't know that the learning communities actually give you opportunities for priority in, you know, class registrations or anything. And then everyone idea reminds me that if everyone has the same idea now, and if we keep our words, you know, be consistent in what we actually, you know, do what we preach, then eventually that would can be solved. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your answers. We'll move on to the next question. And that is, would you characterize ASUCR's relationship with campus media as positive? If no, how would you work to improve this? And if yes, how would you maintain and build upon this relationship? So Dominique, go ahead.
For your question, are you saying ASUCR's relationship was just like Instagram itself, you know, how they promote stuff? Or are you saying like the relationship with the media, getting across their basically their events, and then how it affects the students, like their response to it?
It's more so about like on-campus connections than like social media.
Oh, I see. Okay. I do believe that I characterize ASUCR's relationship with campus media as positive, just in a sense of their events that they program, they have on campus. So, like for instance, basically like Spring Splash, Block Party, and other very specific ones that senators do themselves. Whether they do have workshops for like interviews, for like mock interviews. But I would also try to improve it too, as well as to make it more open and accessible for everyone, because I know people have classes during situations for their events. And then I would build upon it by just having more workshops available throughout the whole year, rather than and then also like in all throughout the year, so that you know, if you couldn't make it during fall quarter, you're able to make it during spring quarter.
Thank you. Aya?
So I think ASUCR has a pretty good relationship with being able to advertise different events and things like that. That's how I know of a lot of events. But I do think that certain resources could be advertised a little better, because I know that there are a lot of issues in terms of maybe homelessness or food insecurity that a lot of students face, and sometimes they don't know where to go. And I know that they do sometimes put advertisements about those resources, but I think maybe emphasizing more how FDRC, for example, provides resources for students with disabilities, or you know, different workshops like Dominique mentioned, and I think undocumented student resources, things like that. I think we could be a little more open about those things. And also, I think the art pantry, a lot of students don't really know where it is, and so I think it would be nice to somehow find a way to maybe direct students to those kinds of resources a little better.
Thank you. Ridwan?
I think ASUCR's relationship with campus media is really good. If you guys see crowds from Block Party or Spring Splash or some other events hosted by ASUCR, you can definitely see a lot of people turning out. And I attribute that to some sort of positiveness that comes out through the relationship. But some things that I would probably try to improve would be to reach out to various groups of people. So, you know, Spring Splash Block Party, they're the two big events, but there are other events that ASUCR also offers, and sometimes specific events might not appeal to specific individuals in terms of ethnicity or in terms of hobbies. So maybe trying to diversify specific events to appeal to a bigger audience would be something that I would work on. Also, timing would be pretty debatable because sometimes these big events pop up during midterm season or timing where students are usually not free. So maybe look for ways to make the timing more accessible for students. But overall, I believe that the relationship's pretty solid right now.
Okay, I also just want to clarify that relationship to campus media means more so like the Highlander and campus partnerships rather than like how ASUCR reaches out to like the student population. So we'll go ahead and move on to Lana.
By the Highlander, do you mean like the newspaper and like media outlets?
Yes, so either like the Highlander, UCR News, and then also like any like campus partnerships that they have.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I definitely think ASUCR has a positive relationship with those outlets because they definitely do their best to make sure that they're like all around campus and like always promoting things and like trying to make sure that people know that they're an available resource to them. So people like know like, hey, ASUCR is somewhere like you can come to and things like that. So I think that by always making sure that they're putting out like good things like through like the Highlander and things like that is like, I think that's really like makes students remember it like, oh, I can go to ASUCR like if I need something or like if I want to talk, you know, like centers have office hours and they're always like reaching out, things like that. So I think that people associate ASUCR like when they're reading the Highlander or like when they see it ASUCR like at the bell tower and stuff, things like that. I think that people recognize that, oh yeah, ASUCR is definitely like a place that's kind of all around, and like I feel like that's why it's at the hub. It's somewhere that like is accessible to everyone, and I feel like the only thing I would really do to kind of like build upon that is I think that people don't realize how versatile like the spots in ASUCR are, and I feel like that they could use those outlets to kind of be more encouraging of like, hey, you can do these like little things and like help be a part of like the student body and things like that, which they have all of those ways to do that. But I just think that there's definitely ways to make it better known for people who are like responding to those media outlets and passing by or reading the Highlander and all those things.
Thank you. And then finally, Sandra.
ASUCR definitely has a very positive relationship with the media outlet. If you go to the Senate meetings every single week, you can see that there's always someone from the Highlander that comes, you know, to take notes and they write articles about ASUCR. They're also doing a very good job at, you know, promoting all the events, like the workshop that we had, like for the international committee that I was in, or there's a lot of like personnel committee. We can see that every single event that we have out, we can just send them a poster and ask them, oh, hey, can you please help us promote this on the Highlander newspaper? And they would say, yeah, for sure. And a lot of the senators that I know already have interview with like the Highlander newspaper to talk about, of course, the good things and the bad things about ASUCR. And the Highlander seems to be, you know, they are very they actually help us a lot doing that, and they always answer. So I think we do have a good positive relationship with them. Maybe the reason why the voter turnout or sometime the event turnout is not so good is because we don't pick the good timing. I think we should pick like to let all the events to be in the first like 3 weeks of the quarter, or maybe we have them during weekends, or you know it could be like at the beginning of the week or during weekends, because there are a lot of students live on campus will be able to attend too. And then, you know, sometime during the week or later, they would not be able to remember that. That's happened with me. Sometimes I forget to go to events that I schedule that I should go.
Okay, thank you. So we do have around 7 minutes left. This is going to be the final question. So do please be mindful of everyone's time just so we can finish on time. So it is, besides students of your college, what other groups of students do you hope to represent and reach out to? We'll go to Dominique.
I definitely hope to represent all the other colleges on campus as well, because what I've noticed is that not only do CNAS majors have issues within the campus itself, but other people have the same issues as well. And then for me to represent and reach out to them, definitely through social media because of the whole coronavirus shutting down the school or closing down the school. So I definitely, following on Instagram, posting everything what I'm doing. I'm even offering like Zoom meetings so that I can get more one-on-one with students so that they can ask me questions about what my ideas and my goals are for ASUCR. But everyone is welcome, not just CNAS students. And that's my way to reach out to them through social media as much as possible. And you know what? Also being a part of a lot of clubs on campus.
Thank you. Aya?
So I hope to reach out to all students, really. I think especially those who feel unheard. I would say I'm currently a science ambassador, and I'm also part of the Lobby Corps committee under ASUCR. And so hearing a lot of different perspectives has allowed me to empathize with a lot of different people. And so it's really important to keep that in mind. And I would love to cooperate with different resource centers on campus. So Women's Resource Center, Chicano student programs, Black Student Union, things like that. And just being able to make it a more diverse place where people can come and talk about their concerns and issues. So.
Thank you. Ridwan?
So I know that CNAS is only one of 5 colleges, and the main reason I'm running is not just for CNAS. I know that CNAS has its own problems, and every college does, but as UCR as a whole, I want to make a difference, and I know that all the students that attend UCR have a lot of similarities as compared to differences in terms of colleges or majors, and I feel that by reaching out to each and every individual from different various backgrounds and ethnicities, I feel that that I should represent UCR as a whole and not just CNAS. While CNAS will be the majority of my work in a sense, but also keeping in mind of UCR and everyone else around me.
Thank you. Ralama?
I like I said, really care about all the students, of course, because like as a student, we all have struggles. They're just like in different ways because we're all on different paths. But I definitely would like to highlight like transfer students because I know that transferring must be difficult as it is, but transferring into like a major that's very heavily impacted where you have problems like you have to fight for your classes and you're not sure why am I paying so many tech elective fees if I'm not really sure where it's going, or like I have to buy equipment additionally, things like that, things that like people have to adjust to. And because I'm someone who's not a transfer, I feel like I don't know about all of those problems. So I would really encourage transfer students in CNAS or any college to like reach out and definitely make their problems like known, because I know in my classes I've had classmates who are transfer students and they tend to run into things that I never had to go through, like maybe making their 4-year plan, like maybe one class that's a prerequisite isn't offered only in winter and things like that, and then they get pushed back lots of quarters, and so things like that that are exclusive to them a little bit more. So I would definitely encourage like to highlight what transfer students have to deal with.
Thank you. And finally, we'll go on to Sandra.
So there's 2 targets that I want to talk about. The first one is people with different political beliefs. I believe that everyone should have the right to voice their opinion, even though the opinion could be controversial. And I think they should feel safe to talk about it. They should have the freedom of speech that our many soldiers of our country have fought for. And I think no matter, how much you disagree with one person, if you don't let them speak, it means that you're afraid of what they have to speak. So they should have the freedom of speech and always be able to voice a concern. And debate should be encouraged, not discouraged. I also want to target transfer students because I have one friend, Elizabeth Sampson. She's running for a CHAS senator, and she's a transfer student. She said that a lot of transfer students have problems because they don't have as much time, and they don't know the campus as well as the other students. And as she is a CHAS under, so she would be able to help a lot of CHAS transfer students. But since I'm running for CNAS, I also want to help her to take care of the CNAS transfer students.
All right, thank you. That's all the questions I have for all of you. Just a quick thank you for participating in the Highlanders 2020 CNAS Senator debates, as well as thank you to anyone who's watching online. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for inviting me.